Hi, and welcome back to Stat Lab. We're going to continue our discussion on standard deviation, but we're going to focus on the 68, 95, 99.7 rule. So let's take a look. You can see on the graph on the right that I have the mean in the middle, and then I have plus 1, 2, 3 deviations, and then minus 1, 2, 3 deviations. So on this graph, between minus 1 and plus 1 deviation, that represents 68% of the data. Now, if we look at the minus 2 to plus 2, well, that represents 95% of the data. And you guessed it, from the minus 3 to the plus 3, that represents 99.7% of the data. So we can use this graph and this method to solve questions. We just need to set up the graph and then the questions become easy. So let's try that. An intro stats class has 39 students, and the average grade for the course is 78 with a standard deviation of 5. So we know that we have a sample size of 39, a mean of 78, and a standard deviation of 5. Now, you'll notice at the bottom of the graph, I removed our numbers. I took away our minus 1, plus 1, etc. That's because we're going to replace it with actual values from our question. So we know the mean goes in the middle, so we can throw our 78 right there. Now, we also know that a standard deviation is 5. So one standard deviation away from the mean is going to be 78 plus 5, which gives us 83. And if we want to go 2 deviations, we just add it again and get 88, and again, and we get 93. Now, when we want to go in the other direction, we're going to minus off the standard deviation. So 78 minus 5 gives us 73, and then 68, and then 63. So now that our graph is all labeled, we're ready to answer questions about this data. Between what grades do 95% of the students' grades fall? Well, we remember that 95% represented this minus 2 deviation to plus 2. All we need to do is simply read off the values that we've already put on our graph. So 95% of students' grades are between 68 and 88. Pretty simple, right? The most difficult part of this is just setting up the graph. Once it's set up, it's easy after that. Okay, how many students received grades less than 68? Now, you can see that 68 falls on that minus 2 deviation, and we've said that the middle there is 95, but we want less than that. And so if the middle's 95%, then the tail should represent 5%, but I only want one of those tails, so I want 2.5%. So that means that 2.5% of students received grades less than 68. But that's not what the question asked us. It asked us how many students. So we need to take 2.5% of 39, which gives us 1. So we know that only one student received a grade less than 68. Let's look at a couple other examples. If a student's grade is within 1 standard deviation of the mean, between what 2 values will their grade fall? Of course, we know that 73 and 83 are our first deviation in either direction, right here. So we can just simply say that if a student has a grade within 1 deviation of the mean, their grade must fall between 73 and 83. Okay, now, what percentage of students received grades that were more than 2 deviations from the mean? So be careful with this, because more than 2 deviations, I don't care about the direction. It can be above or below. So let's take a look at this. We know that 95% represents this 68 to 88. But we're saying more than 2 deviations, so we're talking about below 68 and above 88. And I mentioned before that that would represent 5%, 2.5 per tail. So we know that 5% of students had grades that were more than 2 standard deviations away from the mean. Now let's look at what happens if I wanted to know what percent of students received a grade of less than 75. How can I answer this one? Well, we can't use this method to answer this one because 75 doesn't fall on an even 1, 2, or 3 deviation. And that's where this rule has limitations. We can only use it to talk about the specific 1, 2, and 3 minus 1, 2, and 3 standard deviations. If we want to know something in between, we need to use some other method, and that other method involves using z-scores. So I hope you found today's video helpful, and if you liked it, go ahead and hit like. And if you'd like to learn more about standard deviation and Z-scores, go ahead and hit subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.